Keeping it simple, rambling about being plain in speech on purpose. Have you ever watched those house programs on TV where they either build a new house from scratch or they dramatically renovate one? I've watched hundreds of them. It's my wife's favourite genre of TV show. She watches shows like Grand Designs and Love It or List It. I'm far more interested in YouTube than TV, but to be honest, we watch a lot of house building and renovation channels on there too. We enjoy watching Wild Wonderful Off-Grid, Escape to Rural France, The Chateau Diaries and The Duncombe House Diaries. There's something very pleasing about watching people take on these epic challenges. My favourite section of all these projects is the construction phase, laying foundations, pouring concrete, making stud walls and positioning support beams. My wife prefers the fit and finish phase. She loves the details and the decoration. Something you'll notice very quickly is that the oh-so-popular modern, sleek look is devilishly difficult to pull off. Not because it looks bad, I mean actually making a space look modern with clean lines and no trim is really hard. That dream kitchen with all white worktops, no skirting boards and no drawer handles because everything is pushed to open is more expensive, not less, precisely because you want less details. It seems counterintuitive, but it's true. The more sleek and minimalist you want the look of the finished house or room to be, the more difficult and expensive it may be to achieve. Strangely, it's cheaper to have a more fussy and detailed design. This has always struck me as being the wrong way round. Instinctively, you would think that the more details you add, the more money it would cost. But this is not the case. The opposite is true. According to Google, it was Blaise Pascal that first applied this concept to letter writing back in 1657. I would have written a shorter letter, but I did not have the time. Blaise Pascal. I think there's real truth in this. It takes time to be concise with your words. Amusingly, this is my third attempt at a ramble on simplicity. The other two drafts got abandoned because they were too wordy and got lost in the weeds. Oh, the irony. In last week's ramble, I mentioned that my wife had gifted me an Audible subscription for Christmas. Recently, I was looking for a little book to listen to as I just finished a really long one, and I wanted a mental palate cleanser. While scanning the virtual bookshelves on the app, I spotted J.C. Ryle's Simplicity in Preaching in the Christian section. I thought it was worth a try as it was free or only very short. I loved it. It was so good. I went on to purchase a physical copy. First written in 1882, J.C. Ryle's punchy little book is still as relevant as ever. The end of the very first paragraph clearly states the aim of the book. I purposely exclude such points as gravity, unction, liveliness, and warmth, or the comparative merits of written or extemporaneous sermons. I wish to confine myself to one point, which receives far less attention than it deserves. That point is simplicity in language and style. J.C. Ryle. Much like the house builder, whose aim is to create a series of sleek and uninterrupted lines in their house, there is an upfront cost to the person who aims to speak with clarity and openness. It will cost you time with the subject. It will cost you gaining familiarity with the text you're speaking about. And it may cost you hours of rewrites. In my experience, you don't accidentally come across simplicity in public speaking. If anything, the temptation is always to say too much, too many details, unnecessary asides and unimportant details. I know I'm guilty of all of this when I speak. Simplicity is achieved in the same way as a beautifully smooth surface is on an old wooden handrail or a well-trodden threshold step. Frequent use. Through years and years of handling a subject, through the practice of speaking about it publicly, you discover that there are certain patterns of words that best describe the thing you're talking about. Rather than reinventing the wheel each time, you use the same formulation of words to describe the same phenomena. At least that's what I do. Clarity is achieved through familiarity with the subject matter. On any topic that you are very comfortable, you tend to be able to explain yourself better. Think of the mechanic who had the unfortunate job of explaining to me why my van wasn't working. I have little or no knowledge of the inner workings of the internal combustion engine or the drivetrain. I just know that when I pressed the accelerator it made a funny noise and it felt lumpy when I drove. The mechanic had to explain to me in terms which I could understand the intricacies of the fault, which I certainly could not. He could do this precisely because of the knowledge gap that exists between us. He understood more than me. He talked to me in simple terms until I gave him an indication that I had understood what he was saying. The mechanic wasn't trying to underline the knowledge gap between us. He was trying to bridge that gap for my good. The garage we used to take our camper van to had a model of the engine on the reception desk so they could literally show you which part they were working on. Such a simple idea, but it was so helpful. It was another way of showing that their intention was to help me understand, not just baffle me with jargon and then take my money. Ryle quotes the Roman teacher Quintilian, 35 to 100 AD, who lived around the same time as the early church was just starting. If you do not wish to be understood, you deserve to be neglected. Quintilian. Let's be honest, that's pretty funny. But it's also an important point for anyone who is engaged in public speaking to be aware of. There is no point in speaking at all if your goal is not to be understood. This needs to be kept in mind. I've worked with young people for my whole adult life. I've worked in toy shops, youth clubs, a young person's homeless shelter, and then church. Because of my proximity to young people, I made the decision years ago to keep my speech as simple as possible. Colin Urquhart would always tell people to speak as if the congregation was full of 12-year-olds. That way everyone would be able to understand. This is the sort of thing that's easy to say and far less easy to do. The oft-repeated phrase used to describe Colin's teaching was that he made profound truths simple. That's the goal for all of us. It has been a massive help to me down the years, and as it has forced me to think of different ways to explain things. I enjoy that challenge, the challenge of trying to explain complex things in the simplest way possible. I'm not interested in sounding well educated. I'm interested in being understood. When I was younger, I felt like I was underqualified for what I was doing, so I'd overcomplicate things in order to justify my position, to show that I was somehow the right person to be doing what I'd been asked to do. Even as I write that, I can laugh at how ridiculous that sounds. Now, mercifully, I'm far more secure in myself, and I can get pleasure out of speaking in the plainest way possible. And still, I'm frequently told that I help people see things that they've never noticed before. My responsibility is the same as the mechanic, to bridge the knowledge gap and to make this complex subject accessible. It's worth pointing out that I think speaking simply is hard. J.C. Ryle praised the simplicity of the sermons of Charles Bradley of Clapham, 1789 to 1871, but noted that the labour of those sermons cost Mr. Bradley was very great indeed. J.C. Ryle. There's that upfront cost that the minimalist kitchen designer wants to charge you again. You can't just rock up and expect to be able to speak with clarity and simplicity. It will cost you. I suppose this brings us back to the same point I was rambling about last week when I mentioned our need to love the Lord our God with all of our minds. But what if you've been convinced? What should you do if you want to speak more simply? Thankfully, J.C. Ryle offered 5 points to help us speak with simplicity. Number 1, understand your subject. Number 2, use simple words. Number 3, aim for a simple style of composition. Number 4, use a direct voice. And 5, use anecdotes and illustrations. It's worth noting in the paragraph preceding this advice, he cautions the use of too much colour in your sermon, lest you do more harm than good, which is also worth mentioning. Lastly, Ryle closes out his short book by calling us back to the central thing, Above all, let us never forget that all the simplicity in the world is useless without prayer for the outpouring of the Holy Spirit, the granting of God's blessing, and a life corresponding in some measure to what we preach. Our responsibility is to have an earnest desire for the souls of men while we seek for simplicity in preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ. Let us never forget to accompany our sermons by holy living and fervent prayer. J.C. Ryle. What a barnstorming ending. If you've made it all the way through today's ramble with me, I thank you. If you have a friend who you think would like this collection of thoughts from Ryle, why not send them a link? I hope you can join me again next week for another ramble with my thoughts. Grace and peace.